The cycles of crypto. Everybody, we've been tracking this for years on this YouTube channel, and we have new data. We're always trying to infuse data into the cycles to see if the consistencies of these cycles, the bear market to the bull market, to the bear market to the bull market, surrounding these halvings, which are these white lines on the Bitcoin chart, we're always trying to infuse data from all these different places. And there's an interesting angle here coming out from the Federal Reserve and kind of a statement they made recently, just yesterday, and that's what I want to talk about in this video. It not only has to do with what happens potentially next into this next cycle and the next bull market, but what happens after the bull market, all the way here in 2027. So we're going to dig into these charts. We're going to dissect these cycles within context of what we're about to go over and what the Fed said, Federal Reserve. So hit the subscribe, hit the like, and let's just do it right now. So this is basically the headline. U.S. Fed says it's confident the U.S. can avoid a recession. So number one, they're thinking we're going to see a soft landing, and we're going to talk about what that looks like in just a minute. But Fed policymakers expect the economy to grow 2.1% this year. This is more than twice as fast as what they projected in June 2023. I mean, really, the definition of a recession is basically GDP contracting for 2 consecutive quarters, and it doesn't really look like that's happening or going to happen. In a statement, the Fed says they see no recession until at least 2027 and a very smooth landing. What we're going to do, we obviously have this Bitcoin chart weekly on the weekly. We're going to dig into what this looks like. And my favorite chart, which is a chart that I charted, I use this a lot, especially now because we're talking about the cycles a lot more recently on the zoomed out. This is a chart that I charted back here in 2018. And what the Fed is saying, and I tweeted about this yesterday, plays so well into this. And if you see what I see, let me know in the comments. So 2 angles here. Before we talk about the 2027 aspect of it, what I want to do is I just want to just kind of realize where we are. So they're talking about a potential soft landing, right? And maybe rates, maybe there'll be one more interest rate hike this year. Maybe there's some talk of that. Maybe there's not. That right there on the shorter term, and I'm talking this year, plays so well into the current bear cycle that we're in. And a soft landing, if we get a soft landing, we be in this environment from a macroeconomic perspective, that is to say, not inflationary, not in a recession, just right, just hanging out, right? That's what a soft landing would be. If we find ourselves in that territory, and by the way, right here is around the beginning of next year, there's January. If we find ourselves maybe having that soft landing going into this next halving, right, in this 2024 halving that you see on the screen, Bitcoin crypto markets could be absolutely just primed and ready for the bull market right on time once again. And so the shorter term, midterm outlook of this soft landing plays into the charts. And I say that within, the realm of possibility, absolutely. And we talk about it a lot, that even crypto markets might see another, just some type of leg down. For Bitcoin on this chart, it could look like a higher low. We discussed the targets to the downside in that higher low vicinity, right? It's this Fibonacci that you see down here, $19,000 to around $21,000, $22,000. That's in play. We have a potential move to the downside. But notice the timing of this, right? Even if there's consolidation to the downside, this green area is basically the average of the previous 2 cycles where Bitcoin on this chart had essentially kind of bottomed out and kind of started to get ready to move up into the halving, right? So somewhere in here was where we're taking that data, moving into the halving, and then somewhere here. Obviously, I know COVID happened, but Bitcoin was starting to make a move away from that 50 before COVID into the halving. So it's kind of the average of Bitcoin putting in its higher low, right, on the charts. It's right here. So the narrative of what's happening with the Federal Reserve, with the soft landing, even if there's another interest rate hike this year, going into next year, the case, step 1 is there going into the halving that we're setting up for a bull market if this soft landing happens. And all it takes are the headlines to truly paint a new sentiment across the markets. And And all it takes is these little factors of even manipulation to put markets into the green. So the second part of this is obviously the big headline. 2027 is what they're saying, right? See no recession until at least 2027 and a very smooth landing. The reason that's so intriguing to me, and I really wanted to do this, I wanted to do this video yesterday. I've been so busy, but it's because when we look at this chart that I charted back here in 2018, look how nice. Bitcoin just following the cycles. And here, look at this arrow to the downside to a longer term 786. Speculatively, that was all in play. This is what I was speculating. Came down, put in the bear market low, and here we are. Now, if we're talking about the shorter to midterm, entering this next halving right here, entering a bull market, right? And it could be, it's for another video, but somewhere in this upper range, bull market high for Bitcoin, right? And then entering the next bear market cycle. Look at this. Look at where we are, coming back down to a 786. This yellow line, that's a macro 786, speculative 786. And you can just see 2027 is what we're looking at for the next bear market low from the current bear market that we're kind of climbing out of right now. So I think the macroeconomic, and I'm just blown away by this entire, the headline narratives that are floating around right now, starting on the midterm, going into halving, the rest of this year even, and then all the way up here, 2027, when they're calling for a recession. And by the way, I'm not sitting here saying I'm even taking them seriously with just saying no recession until 2027. But I do think it's interesting to take that data, put it on this Bitcoin chart, because it's been a very wild ride as we've obviously seen inflation going crazy. They started raising interest rates, and there's all this speculation about what markets are going to do, risk on markets. And we've been tracking Bitcoin and crypto markets, and to sit back and to see Bitcoin literally just doing what it's always has done. And not only just Bitcoin, but also just crypto in general, doing what it always does. Here's the chart when I charted it. You can see there was no data when I charted this. And right into the 2020 halving, bull market started, didn't hit the 90,000. We hit right around that circle, I believe, just below the circle, around 50,000 or so, right? 50 to 60,000. And then right back down. And here we are. And when I did this chart, I didn't know, nobody knew there's going to be, just inflation soaring because COVID came into play and they printed all this money and all this stuff was happening. But it did happen. And it's not a great environment, but it happened. And even still, Bitcoin just so on track, so on pace. It blows my mind. I was talking with a client today and we kind of really veered off and started talking about crypto cycles. And I brought up the chart and I was just like, this is where we are in the cycles. It's 100% on pace. And so these are just some of my thoughts, everybody. And it's always interesting to take the headlines that are floating around out there and paint it onto the Bitcoin chart, paint it onto the speculation that we do anyway. We're always speculating. Nobody knows what's going to happen next, but that's what I'm tracking, everybody. Let me know your thoughts. I know, like myself, many of you also not taking the Federal Reserve too seriously and the things that they say too seriously, especially when they're trying to guess what 2027 will bring. That's actually it's kind of funny to actually think about that. But needless to say, with that data, really interesting to see how it lines up with the cycles of crypto, the cycles of Bitcoin. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the subscribe if you're not a subscriber. If you're out there, I appreciate you. I really do. I hope you have a great night. I'll see you in the next video. God bless.